Good morning.
Good morning.
He's having ice cream for breakfast.
I'm an adult. I can have ice cream for,
Are
any,
you?
for any food.
I think the point is adults don't have ice cream for breakfast.
But I can.
But you can. It's true.
I am using my
Here, I thought you'd wait for
privileges. This is part of the privilege of being an adult.
Look at this dog. He really wants to walk in the snow. It's snowing outside, or it did snow. Everything is Christmassy, outside, inside. First, we're going to start with a reading. And today's reading will be interesting because we're going to start with Psalm 24. We're going to do an Emmet Neville combo because Emmet both of them translate the Bible as a psychological journey or a psychic journey of creation. And I think that's just fantabulous. So it's kind of a season of meh. I don't know. Have you been feeling? I've been feeling meh. Normally I feel hyped for the holidays, and this year I just kind of feel like...
You know, it varies. It's been varying.
Has it?
Yeah, some days I'm just really feeling it. The other days when I filled up some advent calendar days, those were nice. Last couple days have been a little meh.
Yeah, I've been feeling meh. My hairstylist diagnosed it as having to listen to Taylor Swift. A lot of work.
Oh.
We'll get to her later, but there's no Christmas music where I'm working. I haven't really listened to any, so today we're going to listen to Christmas music, decorate the tree. It's got lights, it's watered, it's there.
Mm-hmm. It's a live tree.
It's a live tree. It just hasn't been decorated yet. Maybe make some fudge. We'll see if we can kind of get some spirit
Festive.
going.
It's going to be a festive day.
But first, let's study the law of creation. See if it helps get us in the right place. So, Emmet Fox, before this study, asks us to read Psalm 24.
Okay.
Okay?
Which edition are you reading?
This
Which
is
version?
the Care and Counsel Bible, which has been digested through a few things. So not very... I love the King James. I think it's a little more raw. I like things raw and real. But this has a lot of tips for counselors and coaches and things. But obviously this book, in those interpretations, is going to be very different than the filter we're going to run it through. And I love reading it and then getting that sort of filter of the meaning when it's interpreted according to us creating our own reality, the law of attraction, the law of positivity. There's this idea, well, we'll get to it. Psalm 24. The King of glory and his kingdom, a psalm of David. The earth is the Lord's and all its fullness, the world and those who dwell therein. For he has founded it upon the seas and established it upon the waters. Who may ascend into the hill of the Lord, or who may stand in his holy place? He who has clean hands and a pure heart, who has not lifted up his soul to an idol, nor sworn deceitfully, he shall receive blessing from the Lord and righteousness from the God of his salvation. This is Jacob, the generation of those who seek him, who seek your face. Lift up your heads, O you gates, and be lifted up, you everlasting doors, and the King of glory shall come in. Who is this King of glory? The Lord strong and mighty, the Lord mighty in battle. Lift up your heads, O you gates, lift up, you everlasting doors, and the King of glory shall come in. Who is this King of glory? The Lord of hosts, he is the King of glory. And it's really easy, or most folks will have heard this type of psalm or this type of idea from the Bible through a pretty judgmental filter, through a very much, the Lord is a dude sitting out there that can sort of adapt the laws of earth to whatever he wants. He runs everything like a little kid with a train set. He's like pulling levers an ant farm. Thank you. He's like a kid with an ant farm. And that's kind of what we hear in that. And so it's such a great example of reading it. And then let's see how Emmet Fox interprets it through the psychological journey before we jump into Neville. So it says, read Psalm 24. The 24th Psalm is the great summing up of the Bible teaching on letting God come into your life. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. The key to the true meaning of this first stanza is found in two pivotal words, Lord and earth. In the Bible, the word Lord means the I am. Now, if we pair this with Neville, the I am principle is consciousness, or the awareness of being that each one of us has. So I might be aware of being Emily right now, But even if I weren't Emily, I would be aware of being. This is being created with the imaging device of God, the consciousness piece and the image of God. It's the awareness of being conscious that is the God force. That's very different than saying it's a dude sitting in a chair somewhere. The earth is a general term covering all expression or manifestation under the jurisdiction of the I am. So the Lord in this sense is our awareness of being, not an other being, not an external being. It's the one inside of all of us. Now, all trouble of every land really arises from the belief that the earth is subject to the dominion of some outer power or law that is able to govern it independently of the I am. He puts it so much more poignantly than me. All of our problems generally are that we think some external thing is adapting things, and we don't understand that there is a law that's operating. But the law of being, and he capitalizes it, that man is the image and likeness of God and has full dominion over all his conditions. And this psalm emphasizes this wonderful fact by adding the world and they that dwell therein. So in other words, it's saying the earth is the Lord's. The Lord is not some external thing, but inside of you, in your I am, in your imaging device of God, your awareness of being. And every single manifestation we see belongs to that and that alone, which is following the law of being. What is the law of being? We will get to, right? Who shall ascend into the hill of the Lord? The hill of the Lord, or his holy place, means the realization of God. So it means nirvana, if you would put it through Buddhist terms. It is that vivid, real sense of the presence. When one attains this, he has a marvelous power of helping and healing others. This is what Jesus would have attained. To a man to remember he's God. To reach this state is the real object of all our prayers. He that hath clean hands and a pure heart. But who are the pure in heart? Fundamentally, purity means complete loyalty to the belief in one single, all-embracing, omnipotent God, our Father, with which art in heaven. Hold unswervingly to God. This is purity. To keep one's mentality consciously loyal to the one power is only half the battle. The other half is to purify and re-educate the soul, not merely from the grosser sins that everybody recognizes, but from the 1,001 concessions to limitation belief that fill the everyday life of humanity. This is to have clean hands and to be able to ascend that wondrous hill of the Lord. So, in other words, we kind of put it as a judgmental thing that there's this dude out here that's controlling everything and judging us, but we don't realize that we actually have one power within us that we're creating everything that there is. It's the belief in limitation or the faith in lack that actually is the real sin. And keeps us from having everything we want. So we'll switch over to Neville, where he gets a little more specific with it. This is freedom for all from the first chapter, the oneness of God. I'm just going to jump into the middle of it. There's no chance or accident responsible for the things that happen to me or the environment in which I find myself, nor is predestined fate the author of my fortunes or misfortunes. Innocence and guilt are mere words with no meaning to the law of consciousness, which is the same as the law of being, which Emmet is referencing, except as they reflect the state of consciousness itself. So this is getting to full accountability that we are creating everything in the literal world of manifestations, or the world of the physical. There are no accidents, so we are creating it through our am, or what we are aware of being. So if I'm aware of being poor, I continue to create poverty. The consciousness of guilt calls forth condemnation. The consciousness of lack produces poverty. So it's not happening to you. Some external force is not making you poor because you suck or you're being judged or punished in some way. It's simply what you are aware of being, and so it continues to reproduce itself. Man everlastingly objectifies the state of consciousness in which he abides. But he has somehow or other become confused in the interpretation of law of cause and effect. He has forgotten that it is the inner state which is the cause of the outer manifestation. We want to make it something out there. We don't want to take accountability. That's really who we are and how we are and what we believe we are that's creating the life we live. And sometimes that sucks. Like now when I'm feeling meh, or find myself in meh situations, even knowing this, it's still like tricky to take accountability for that, you know?
Choose not to accept that.
Yeah, you have to choose to disregard it altogether and just
I
not
do not
see it.
accept this as the current state.
Mm-hmm.
I refuse your reality and interject my own.
And that's why you have to...
It's actually more of a true statement than you think.
It is. It's disregarding the physical or what shows up and not letting it get to you and being aware that it isn't the ultimate reality. It was Jesus' ability to do that even in the face of incredible evidence of otherwise. He had to continue to say, this is a dream, forgive them, they know not what they do, this is an illusion. And even though it seemed so real and so painful in the end, and probably was pretty difficult to disregard, his ability to disregard it gave him the ability to not die and sort of overcome it in the most ultimate sense. But that had to be pretty hard for him not to buy into his circumstances as he was like lugging a giant cross up a hill. As within, so without. Most of us are familiar with this phrase in the Bible, but we really don't get what it means. As within, so without. That's the one thing that should be literally translated in the Bible, other than all the other things. Like, it's our inner state that is creating our outer state. But we don't want to view it as a psychological journey or that there's this sort of magical piece to it. I mean, it feels like magic. It's not, since the world is mind, but we think the world is physical. And so when mind can override the physical, we think it's magical. Correspondence, the second of the 7 principles of Hermes Trismegistus. Oh, wow. I didn't know Neville knew of Hermes Trismegistus. That's pretty cool. He's the one that legendarily wrote the Green Tablet, which would have been the Egyptians before they became sort of a more barbarian culture, when they were more connected to the Sumerians, when they were doing quite some intense magical cool stuff, which is where the pyramids really came from. And, you know, the star would rest.
To be fair, if you look up the more occulty stuff, you'll find more actual Egyptian Sumerian things.
It's before Egyptians sort of, degraded a bit. There's a belief they were sort of taken over by a more barbarian culture. Before the horses, yes. Well, and a lot of people don't realize the pyramid, like it perfectly, what rests on it at a certain time of the year, I think it's the North Star, comes down and perfectly rests on it during the Lion's Gate, which is in August. Like they were built to sort of harness a bunch of power from the star. There's a lot to it.
There's a couple of them I think still have little passageways that go all the way through. You can look out.
That's
you
right.
can actually look at the star that
They
should
look
be there
at
at the right time.
A very specific place. And they were actually, people think they're giant tombs, but they were actually sort of training places for very advanced mages at one time. For like, I know it sounds so like,
told you,
we're now in a video
the occult
game.
stuff is where you're going to find the...
Well, we view it as a cult, or did they tap into an understanding that the world is more mental than we realize? There's a power. I don't know that that's the only way to extract it, but they certainly found a way to access it.
The fact that every peoples across the entire world has a weird history about 10,000 years ago.
Yes.
That's all seems to be tapped into the awkwardly similar thing.
And in his forgetfulness, man, it's saying his forgetfulness about cause and effect, he believes that an outside God has his own peculiar reason for doing things.
God works in mysterious ways.
Yes, he's that outside kid with the ant farm.
Don't question it. He works in mysterious ways.
Yes, doesn't need to be logical. He'll explain it to us one day.
No,
when we're
it'll
all
be
dead.
Revealed to you later.
Oh, yes. When you're dead,
part of the
by the way.
mysterious way.
Never happens in life. It happens after death. So no one can come tell us if it actually happens. Outside God has his own peculiar reason for doing things, such reasons being beyond the comprehension of mere man, to your point. Or he believes that people are suffering because of past mistakes, which have been forgotten by the conscious mind. Or again, that blind chance alone plays the part of God. That'd be depending if you think that the ceramic model of the universe is true or the mechanistic model. One day man will realize that his own I amness is the God he has been seeking through the ages, and that his own sense of awareness, his consciousness of being, is the one and only reality. The most difficult thing for man to really grasp is this, that the I amness in himself is God. It is his true being or father state, the only state he can be sure of. The Son, or his conception of himself, and this is why Jesus was always saying the Son of Man, which was the body. In other words, it was the Son of what was being created in the Father principle. So there was the Son of God he would talk about, and then the Son of Man, if you've ever noticed. So the Father state is the only state he can be sure of. The Son, or his conception of himself, is an illusion. I hate to break it to you, but the human you are now is not what you really are. It's an illusion. He always knows that he is, but that which he is an illusion created by himself, the Father, in an attempt at self-definition. This discovery reveals that all that I have believed God to be, I am. I am the resurrection and the life, it quotes John 11:25, is a statement of fact concerning my consciousness, for my consciousness resurrects or makes visibly alive that which I am conscious of being. I am the door, from John 10:2, 10:7, and 10:9. All that ever came before me are thieves and robbers, from John 10:8. Shows me that my consciousness is the one and only entrance into the world of expression. In other words, it's saying I am the door, and I am is capitalized. That by assuming the consciousness of being or possessing the thing which I desire to be or possess is the only way by which I can become it or possess it. That any attempt to express this desirable state in ways other than by assuming the consciousness of being or possessing it is to be robbed of the joy of expression and possession. I am the beginning and the end, Revelation 1:8 or 22:13. Reveals my consciousness as the cause of the birth and death of all expression. I am hath sent me, Exodus 3:14, reveals my consciousness to be the Lord, which sends me into the world in the image and likeness of that which I am conscious of being, to live in a world composed of all that I am conscious of. That's so trippy.
Especially the last part.
What, that the world is composed of all that I'm conscious of?
Yes. It's only full of things that you're aware of.
That's why I say.
That really reiterates the point.
I think I read it in another thing that I haven't posted. Where is it? Oh no, I read it in something else. It's here. But it's basically saying that, you know, in order for God to lose himself and play a game, God became man so that man
could remember it was a God.
It was a God, but also it's the last place man would look for God is inside of man. So if you really want to hide yourself from yourself, become a man and then, you know, put the God in there, because we'll never see it there. All we're going to see is what's wrong rather than seeing what's right. Even thinking the world's going to hell in a handbasket, what this is saying is it's becoming that way because that's what we believe to be true.
God works in mysterious ways. That's why you don't make any sense.
None of us really do.
Because you work in mysterious ways.
I am the Lord, it says, and there's no God beside me. Where classic Christian interpretation means that there's this dude sitting up there being like, I'm the God, and there's no one beside me. But that doesn't really make logical sense. It makes much more sense to say, that declares my consciousness to be the one and only Lord, and beside my consciousness, there is no God. And that's why everyone's sort of the God of their own world, because they really are. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:1 means that I should still the mind and know the consciousness is God. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. Exodus 27. I am the Lord, I am capitalized. That is my name. Isaiah 42:8. Now that you've discovered your I am, your consciousness to be God, do not claim anything to be true of yourself that you would not claim to be true of God. For in defining yourself, you are defining God. So don't say that God punishes people for being bad, or don't believe that you deserve punishment for being bad, because you are therefore defining God to be that way through the reality of what you're creating.
Also, shall not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain.
God damn it.
No.
That's what I was always taught it meant. It's so stupid.
True, but also
it's stupid.
With this link thinking and this order of operations, you should never put yourself down.
That's what it's really saying.
You can't. You shouldn't ever put yourself down because you're right, and you have the power to do so. So when you put yourself down, or you tell yourself that you're bad or you're dumb, you're like, that was stupid of me, or wow, I'm worthless. You are taking the Lord's name in vain when you do that to yourself.
And it becomes the reality for you.
Put down your own consciousness.
That's the problem with victim consciousness right now. Everybody feels and thinks they're a victim. And so what happens? You become a victim because you believe it. And then we think by sympathizing to people and spreading it more, we're helping in some way. But this is why it's just getting worse. And all we have are more victims and more victimization. Because we are creating the reality of the victim rather than the champion.
I am Lord. Lord, Lord, Lord.
South Park quote. Random South Park quote. Oddly accurate, offensive show. Now that you've done, right, okay, that which you are conscious of being is that which you have, I didn't even realize what you were saying. I am Lord, I am, oh my gosh. That is what he sings in there. Her name is Lord.
Lord, I am Lord.
And the I am principle is the Lord. That is super creepy. Well done. You're so clever. That which you're conscious of being. If you don't know what he's talking about, it's a line in South Park of all shows where one of the characters is they're pretending that one of the fathers is actually Lord, the actual singer. And so it's really quite offensive in many ways. But one of the lines he's singing in the bathroom as he's hiding that he's actually Lord, the singer, is that I am Lord, I am
Lord, I am Lord.
Just to give a little more context there. All right, that which you are conscious of being is that which you have named God. God and man are one. You and your Father are one. John 10:30. Your unconditioned consciousness, or I am, and that which you are conscious of being are one. The conceiver and the conception are one. It's the Father and the Son. If your conception of yourself is less than that which you claim as true of God, you've robbed God, to your point, the Father, because you, the Son or conception, bear witness of the Father or conceiver.
That also adds a new depth to the statement of the sins of the Father are passed on to the Son.
I didn't even think about that. That's true.
That old adage, like, well, it's very well known, the sins of the Father. You mean the ones that I put on
myself.
Yes.
And I've assigned to God because
Correct.
I've assigned them to my Father, which is technically assigning sins to man.
To the Son.
So technically, if we're assigning sins to man, we're assigning them to God. So
and vice versa.
Right. So if you're assigning them even to your Father, you're assigning it to God, which makes it the all-powerful Creator.
Follow the Son.
Not only did my Father create me in the sense of physically mating with my mother and creating me, but my belief about it is becoming true for me because my Father, the I am principle, is creating the Son, that which I'm aware of being. That's wild. Well done. That's so smart. Love you. Wow. Do not take the magical name of God, I am, in vain, for you will not be held guiltless. You must express all that you claim to be. So if you assign it to your Father, you're assigning it to yourself, be that of your physical father or of God. Name God by consciously defining yourself as your highest ideal. This is fascinating, because this is why the Course in Miracles says that if you are believing you are unworthy, that is actually being arrogant. We have that as humility, but it's being arrogant. True humility is knowing you are amazing and perfect and worthy.
And that you can.
Because that's really honoring God, because you are God. And we don't think of it this way. We think God's out there and we're unworthy and we have to earn our way back. And what's happening? We're creating that reality. And we don't realize we already are God. We already are there. We don't have to earn our way anyway. We're supposed to be having a good time.
This pantheon is massive.
God, we are confused.
This is a crazy pantheon.
It's a playground.
Every single person is a part of this pantheon. This is a crazy pantheon.
It is. Well, this is our playground, and rather than making it a playground, we're making it sort of a hell, thinking something out there is doing it to us because we're supposed to learn something.
Somebody told me that.
We're signing
so I'm going
it.
to believe it.
And when we believe it, we create it, and then we think it's happening to us. That's how we're confusing cause and effect. I mean, it's a really big deal. It's a really, really deep thing. And really important for us to realize that we are responsible for everything that's showing up in our life. You study Abraham and it's a little bit light and fluffy of how you're creating it. You dig into Neville, you dig into Emmet, you dig into the Bible, and it's like, it's everywhere. The same message is everywhere. We are just
missed it.
Missing it completely.
We took it literally.
And that's why I
see. In the wrong direction.
Right, we took it literally in the wrong direction. And now I see why Abraham doesn't even talk about any of this stuff, because it's been so misinterpreted and so sort of misused.
Stigma.
It's pointless to even get into the conversation, even though Abraham is saying the same thing that the Bible is, but we're just going to stay off of that. Only I'm dumb enough.
The names and likenesses may have been changed.
Because it's so misconstrued. And that's where I think Alan comes in too and starts to draw all these parallels too of all these incredible things with Taoism and Buddhism and all of these same principles. It's not even just the Bible. That's what we were looking at today. But the message is always the same in everything that's happening. We did a reading the other day where he was talking about how this is a game and a playground based on the Taoist idea. So very, very interesting stuff. Thanks for being here with me today and adding your brilliance. I appreciate it.